So I'm Sarah Olivieri. I'm a #1 international best-selling author. I'm a former executive director, and I'm the creator of the Impact Method. And I love helping nonprofits change the way they operate so they can thrive, and normally thrive, I say thrive in the digital age, which is already fast-paced, but now we're in a situation where things are changing even more rapidly, and we have many things to deal with quickly. So it has been my pleasure to do regular micro trainings, and it is really my pleasure now to be able to target those so that they can help you right now with what you're dealing with. And this week, I have heard so many nonprofits say that they are afraid to fundraise right now, but they're also afraid for their future. So that is why the topic of today's training is fundraising without fear. So let's dive right into the question at hand. Most people are afraid right now because you're worried whether you should be fundraising at all. Is it insensitive? Are people overburdened? Will you be angering people if you fundraise right now? And my answer to that is, if you are being impacted financially by this global pandemic, or you will be impacted by the global recession that is on its way or on its doorstep right now, then you should be fundraising. And exactly what that looks like partly depends on your audience, but I'm going to give you some things to think about to help you get there. So yes, you should be fundraising, unless you're like, we're great, we don't need money, let everybody else do the work. But I have a feeling that that nonprofit is not really out there. So you should be fundraising, and whether or not fundraising is seeking money directly, making an ask, or building your donor base will probably depend on where your current organization is at with its fundraising capacity. But I can tell you, as a general rule of thumb right now, in a situation where we have an economic problem, downturn, crisis, whatever you want to call it, many people will be less able to give. They will simply have less money at their disposal. But that doesn't mean that they are feeling less generous. So fewer, smaller donations means you have to increase your total donor base. You don't want to lose your existing donors, and you're going to want to add to them. So fundraising for you might be asking for money from your existing donors and expanding your donor base. Or if you're really small or new to fundraising for you might mean right now that you need to just expand your donor base. Those people who are likely to donate to you, or people who are giving a very small amount, just to be able to count them as a donor. So I've come up with a little acronym that'll hopefully be memorable to you, LSD, to remember why donors give. And I put this in a pyramid because I was actually thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs when I was creating this. And so really, we're going from the bottom up. And I'm going to give you some tips on each of these. So your donors, most donors are a type, right? There's someone who gives typically. That's part of their MO. They are a donor, whether or not they're a donor for your organization yet. Occasionally, certain causes will get people to give who don't give otherwise. And if you're, if you have a specific, something specific to your mission where people would give only to you, that's one category. But the bulk of your donors, the bulk of the donors in any organization are going to be people who are already in the market of giving. That's something they spend money on. And so because it's a lot of work to convert somebody who doesn't typically give money and convince them to give. You want to go after the easier pool of people who already enjoy and believe in giving and get them to give to you. So I'm going to go through each of these. LSD is our acronym to remember it. First level, donors are wanting that dopamine hit, that experience of giving. They want that positive experience. Other ways people get these experiences, they treat themselves to a nice dinner, they take themselves shopping, they might buy and consume drugs and alcohol. These are all ways that people seek a positive emotional experience. They might hang out with a friend. So this is something that human beings are naturally seeking all the time. The next level up, and these first two levels, there can be a lot of crossover between the two, and I'm going to give you some specifics. But the next level up is donors are usually wanting to help solve a problem. They want to be part of the solution. They don't care about the nitty-gritty of your solution necessarily, but they're really interested in solving the kind of problem that you're solving. And there are a lot of people, whether they believe that being charitable is something that brings value because they come from a faith-based background that has emphasized the importance of being, solving the world's problems. I can tell you there are many entrepreneurs out in the world who are motivated to support charities, and rather than start a nonprofit or work in a nonprofit themselves, they take on the mission that if I make more, I can give more. So they're going to use their money to help solve the problem. And then finally, and this is only for a few of those donors, some way to leverage their money. Once they've had plenty of dopamine hits and they're actively solving the problems, at that point, once those two boxes are checked and rechecked, they may become interested in how can I make my support go even further. And those are things like tax breaks, and I'll give you some more examples of those as well. But you want to start, make sure that you are doing the S and the D part before you worry about the L part of our LSD acronym. But before I go into a few more details about each of those levels, the most important thing is that you are building a relationship with your donors and that you love your donors. I think as nonprofits, it's easy for us to love our clients, but how many of us really love your donors? Put it into the chat right now, or if you're watching this on replay, definitely leave a comment and tell me, is that you? Do you have a donor base that you love? Do you know who these people are? Do you have a great trusting relationship with them? Are they there for you? Do you love your donors? Put it in chat for me now. I'd love to know. If you don't, just say not me, and I will know. So yes, awesome, Molly, you love your donors. So if you love your donors, then it is your obligation, your moral obligation, to be their giving guide, to take them on this journey, because those donors are donors because they get fulfillment and meaning in their life by giving as a way of helping to solve problems. And if you're not there to guide them, that is not really treating them with love and respect. So everything that I'm going to say next, this is the core of it. It's about building a loving, trusting relationship. So let's go back to that bottom, that dopamine hit. You want to give them the most emotionally rewarding experience that you can. You know they like to give, so you want to make it attractive for them to give to you and for them to get a great experience out of it. So one way that's always works, but is especially meaningful right now, is to give them empathy. You can call them, text them, email them, ask them how they are. Remember, you love these people and you want to make sure that they're okay. So reach out to them, listen to them genuinely, let them know that you have heard them. Be an active listener. Pay attention to what they tell you. And another way to do this is to pave the path to giving with micro rewards. And I'm going to give you some examples. And this kind of is kind of reaching towards that next level of helping them solve the problem, right? Each way, find many ways for them to be a part of solving the problem. And as you do that, create a really unique and exciting experience for them. So I think a great, I could give you examples for your nonprofit, but I think a great way to teach this journey is for you to step out into another world, and let's take the world of restaurants. Because what is a restaurant at the end of the day, right? People go and they eat food. It's really pretty simple. And yet restaurants have really mastered, many restaurants, the art of the kind of experience they're giving. So what do I mean when I talk about micro rewards along the way? Right? You sit down at many restaurants and you get a gift, some bread often, but many restaurants have gotten creative. Maybe it's chips. Maybe it's something really unique. At a really fancy restaurant, they might give you a little free something to munch on that the chef created just then. So starting off with something free. Now to translate this to a nonprofit, right? Give them a problem that they can solve without it costing money. So let's say you're a mental health organization. Give them a tool that they can use to support themselves or that they can pass on to people they know. I actually just heard on the radio today, a large mental health organization was giving away a toolkit, a mental health first aid toolkit. So think about a small way that they can help you solve the problem. So they can help you protect the mental wellness of people around them by sharing this toolkit. They could help you by referring another donor. If they already love you, they could refer somebody else to you. Any type of small volunteering activity or anything that you can give them to put out into the world is a great place to start with a micro experience. Here's another picture I chose here is a menu, but notice what she has in her hand. She has a drink, right? At a restaurant, you get the bread, and then they take your drink order. This is like donation one, right? While they have made donation one, then we serve up a menu of the next options for even bigger donations, if you will. So this is creating a journey. Free bread, now you get a donation with a lovely experience. And remember, with donations, different from buying is when you buy something, you give the money and then you get the experience. But when you donate, people, for the most part, they get the experience and then they give the money. But we want to make this cyclical. So we want to give them a great experience. They give money. We give them more experience that leads them to the next piece. And I've just popped out of full screen. I have no idea why. It looks like I lost the connection for a moment. So let's keep going. Okay, next slide. More about the restaurants, right? But I just want you, this should evoke an immediate feeling. What kind of experience is this? Just absorb this image for a moment. This is a very small amount of food. It's all about the presentation. I'm sure it tastes good too, but this is really about experience. Here's a very different kind of experience. This might be your style. It might be, we're going to have a community experience, right? So here it's not so much about the presentation of the food, but you're experiencing community when you give. So just to relate both of these back to some organizations, and this has to be authentic to your organization and your MO as an organization. So you might have, and it also should appeal to your donors, but ideally you and your donors have similar likes and dislikes about how to go about doing things. So some organizations really benefit from an air of exclusivity, something really unique, bespoke, special, in a very kind of individual moment. And other organizations might benefit from, join in the community. We're all in this together. It's going to feel like one big family. That might be your organization's MO and as far as delivering experiences. solving a problem, right? So we've kind of touched on that already, but you want to give your donors as many opportunities to take part in solving the problems that you're solving. So focus on the problem rather than your solution. So you might have a fantastic solution, and you certainly can share that a bit to show how you're unique. But for the most part, the donors want to be able to say, I helped solve that problem. So focus on your communications on sharing what the problem is. Now, that problem can be the problem that you solve for people, or it can be your problem as an organization right now. If your problem is you can't serve your people right now because you've had to shut down your programs, that is a problem that your donors probably want to help you solve. Or maybe your clients have many more problems than they had before the COVID-19 pandemic because it's affecting them if they're a vulnerable population. So any problem is fair game. Share the problems with your donors and give them the opportunity to solve the problem. And be intentional about the size of the problems you present. And this is where you might segment your donors into amounts, how large a donor they are, right? If they have the potential to give a very large amount of money, give them a big problem to solve. I think Bill Gates is a great example of this. Right, he has the Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates. They have set out, they're solving several problems, but they set out to eliminate malaria from the world, right? Huge problem, big money, and they've gone after it. But a small donor, give them a smaller problem where their financial contribution will make a big impact on that smaller problem. And then finally, I don't want you to worry about having them leverage their money, but I just want to tell you what kind of things fall into this category so that you don't get hung up on them right now, because this is like advanced fundraising. Once you are like knocking it out of the park and you have these first two things and the money's rolling in, and I doubt that that's your situation because you're here today, but if all that's working, then you can start thinking about helping your donors make even more impact for the money they're giving. And so this is what, if you put it in for-profit terms, we call an upsell, right? This is after they've made a first donation, after they've given more donations, you can think about using some of these to get them to give even more, or to reaffirm that they are in fact helping to solve the problem. When they give to you. Or this could be a way you could stand out against some of your competition. Other people are solving the same problem. So things like matching gifts, the tax benefits, asking them to volunteer in addition or to volunteer to help you raise more money, planned giving. If you offer some sort of scaled solution, meaning that money given to you goes further than money given to someone else, or if you want your donors to invest in helping you scale your ability to deliver your solution, it means every dollar they spend impacts more solution. It solves more problem. And that's, I think, why the kind of old thing of, every dollar goes straight to our programming. Now, we know that giving dollars straight to our programming isn't actually a scaled solution, but it kind of sounds like that, which is why that's effective. But again, this is your bucket of build capacity to do these things. Don't worry about them now. So, final note is, and I mentioned this before, you have to be authentic. In anything you do, do not try any tactic or any strategy that isn't authentically you. You have to know yourself as an organization, and who you are, that's your brand. And branding is everything you do to express that. You don't have to get fancy for this to work. You don't have to be Coca-Cola for this to work, but you do have to know yourself and be true to your MO, your modus operandi, in everything you do and everything you say. And so I have used a picture here, right? Coca-Cola is a great example. They have a brand. They are not a charity, so they kind of have to like finagle it and make it up, but they're so consistent. And I think you can see from this picture, Coca-Cola is about people coming together and sharing. You don't have to get fancy though with branding, but you do have to know who you are, and everybody in your organization has to be aligned with that. So if you're going, oh my God, we don't have our branding, or we're not aligned, or I'd really love to go through my specific situation, I have two supports for you right now. You can go to pivotground.com/apply, and I will be happy to do a free consultation with you one-on-one. Or right now, for a few months, I'm offering a mastermind group. You can go to pivotground.com/mastermind. We are meeting twice a week for an hour, Mondays and Wednesdays from 3:30 to 4:30 Eastern. It's a pay what you can model starting at $25 a week. It's my way of giving back and helping you cut through the noise of free resources and get right to solving your specific problems in a small group setting. So thank you so much, everybody. I will now take any specific questions.